You know, when you're looking through old pictures, chums, you know, the sort of thing. I know photo albums are a thing of the past now, aren't they? Everything's on the phone, isn't it? And it's strange. I was reading this the other day, and this is a bit of thing to take note. You know, if you have got pictures that you really like, be careful to take them off your phone or your iPad, because unlike yesteryear where you could look and think, oh, there's that picture, once they're gone, they're gone. And as many of you know, I've had my phone stolen twice, and there's certain pictures now that I can never get back because I didn't transfer them. But you've got to do it, aren't you? That's the thing, you know. Always going to be doing it, but you never quite get round to it. I saw a thing the other day where there's a digital thing where you plug it in and you can just tap and it takes all your pictures. And I like the idea of it. Then I lost the swipe that it was on. You like that, That's the problem. These two pictures I wanted to share with you because some funny stories behind the memories. So yes, as ever, let me explain. Now, first and foremost, can we say a wonderful 90th birthday to this man? That's right, Jim Dale. Now, Jim Dale is, you know, a phenomenon really, an incredibly good looking guy. And really, you know, a bit of a national treasure. You know, I don't like that particular phrase now. I was appearing at the London Palladium when I managed to spend a long time with Jim in the dressing room, right? And what was lovely about it, we just got on, you know, the sort of thing where they start to tell you all about their career break. And, you know, he was part of a movie originally called the 6-5 Special. He was a pop star. Yes, he was a lot of records, and then he decided to move into the world of acting, but he carried on with, of course, songwriting, being Grammy nominated for, what was the song? Georgie Girl. Remember that one? Yes, you do. You'll be singing that now all day, won't you? And then really he went on and became even bigger to a brand new generation, all thanks to the audio books of the wonderful Harry Potter. And of course, the author, the creator, the wonder person behind all of that, J.K. Rowling, was a huge Carry On fan and was delighted when Jim Dale said that he would voice the audio books. He came back over to London a few years back now, maybe about 5-7 years ago, and he did a wonderful one-man show in London and very kindly invited me, and it was wonderful to listen to all of the stories, the memories. Some of the older viewers, particularly here in the United Kingdom, will remember him also when he became the host, the compere of Sunday night at the London Palladium. I mean, incredible. You know, he's literally done everything. And as I say, to reach a wonderful age of 90, still looking good, still working, well, something to raise a glass to, I'm sure you'll all agree. Now, this picture I wanted to share with you because it was just a funny memory. In fact, as many of you know, I was lucky enough to count as a friend a wonderful man called Alan Clegg, who was the general manager of the Batley Variety Club in West Yorkshire. And what was interesting about Alan was he was just full of wonderful stories, including one about this lady. That's right, the blonde bombshell Jane Mansfield. Now, a double story on this, in fact, really, because this was verified to me by another very important person that I was lucky enough to meet, none other than the wonderful footballer Sir Stanley Matthews. Now, Stanley Matthews, as you know, was in the generation, you know, there were greats, were there not? George Best, Billy Wright, Stanley Matthews. He had his own annual. He was a king. He was the king of Brill cream as well, right? So not only that. Now, where does Stanley Matthews and Jane Mansfield and Alan Clegg fall into the picture? Well, it's this story really that I wanted to share, because as you can see, there's Jane Mansfield at White Hart Lane in 1959 for the FA Cup final between Wolves and Spurs. Right now you might think, oh right, well, Jane was over here making a movie with Kenneth More called The Sheriff of the Fractured Jaw. And you know, Jane, ever eventful for doing publicity and all that sort of stuff, well, she was asked would she like to go along to this. Now, this became really controversial, and this is where Sir Stanley pointed this out. You see, she went along, and because it was Jane Mansfield, some of the directors, the older people, were so enamoured by this beautiful blonde Hollywood goddess, as one can imagine with Jane Mansfield, right? She was invited into the director's box. Now, you might think, well, what's wrong with that? In 1959, there was a lot wrong with that. and she caused an uproar, as you can imagine. You see, Jane could create publicity even when there wasn't any. Now, what was interesting, as I say, years down the line, in fact, in 1967 April, Jane was appearing at the Batley Variety Club and once again created another momentous moment when she decided to go along and entertain the inmates of Armley Jail in Leeds. All publicity for her stint, a week-long stint, which was around about £20,000 in that time. A lot of money, around about £1 million if you think about it today, for a week stint where she was appearing. And apparently at first a lot of people said no, they wouldn't come out, you know, it wasn't her thing. Suddenly Jane managed to fill the club literally night after night after night. And as Alan Clegg pointed out to me, and he was a lovely down-to-earth northerner who also made most of the furniture that people sat on in the club. Oh yes. And what was interesting about this particular story is he said, well, you know, Jane said, he said, oh, you know, bookings need to pick up, etc. And she patted his head and said, Alan, don't worry, I've got a plan. And the plan was Armley Jail. The moment that picture hit, which you're looking at now, the club was full. You see, if you're in the world of show business, this is what's missing today. They all want to hide behind dark glasses. Jane Mansfield was very much out there for all the right reasons. Neil Shawn in the very heart of London.